5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Well, hello, friends, and welcome to the Nasty Fish Podcast number 4. I am your gracious host, Mino, and today we're going to be talking about the undisputed championship that just occurred within the women's division. That's right, friends. We are talking boxing. Clarissa Shields versus Christina Hammer for the undisputed middleweight title. The 7th undisputed title in the world. The 2nd to be in the women's division and the 1st at middleweight. This is a very, very big event, and I'm sure none of you want to miss some of these highlights, which were actually, some of them were pretty funny, and some of them were just sad. But, you know, it's a mixed bag of treats. So, first thing I want to start off with, the fight was excellent, the main card. I recommend, if you want to take a look at it, give Showtime a free chance. They have a free trial. You can have it for a week with, no payments. I recommend it just for the fight. At the moment, there's no other fights that go on that are quite interesting in my opinion, especially if you're not a boxing fan. But it's definitely worth a shot. The undercard for this fight was very interesting. There were a couple of things that went on that were a little confusing and disappointing. First thing I want to mention, boxing commentary versus wrestling commentary. What is the deal? I mean, I've watched boxing on multiple different networks. I've seen it on Showtime, I've seen it on DAZN, and I don't know what the deal is, but whenever boxing commentary goes on, it's so bad. Like, why? What is the deal with that? Come on, guys. You're supposed to be hyping people. You're supposed to be telling them a little bit about what's going on, not about you being confused. If you see the fight, skip the first 15 minutes because the pre-fight interviews are terrible. I don't know what is going on, and I don't think they know what's going on either. But that may just be me. I mean, I do look at wrestling, which has real commentary. Don't judge me, but it does. By the way, WrestleMania 35, excellent. I think we should probably do a podcast for that too. Leave a comment down below if you guys want to hear someone talk about WrestleMania 35, because that was epic. But back to the undercard. So, on your undercard, you had Otto Wallin. He's an undefeated professional who has faced Anthony Joshua as an amateur 3 times, I believe. He's doing really good in his professional career right now. I believe it's 20-0. Or I guess 20-0-1 or something, but we'll get to that in a second. And Nick Kisner, a journeyman from Michigan, who is a guy who didn't even get like a pre-fight interview cutscene. It was really weird. Like, they had nearly 3 minutes of interview content for Otto Wallin, and Nick Kisner is like, here I am. Don't know what that's about, but, hey. And the fight itself, it lasted 1 round. So, I think within the first 2 minutes, there was a collision of heads. Technical term for this would be headbutt that occurred. And Nick claimed that he could not see out of his left eye, which was where the collision happened. And Otto became frustrated by this because apparently he said that he was headbutting him multiple times and that it was intentional. So during a clinch that occurred, I think this was around like 2 minutes into the fight, or around 2.5 minutes, something like that. In the clinch, he literally grabbed onto him and he threw him down onto the ropes. And then there was like a scuffle, and then the ref was, he called it off, and there was talking, and they both put their shirts on and stuff like that, and the fight was weighed as a no decision. I have never seen that before. I've never seen anything like that before. But I mean, it's I guess it's a Showtime thing. I don't know. I mean, I've heard of no contest, or DQ, but no decision. So I guess the fight essentially never happened, even though it did on television. Well, hey, whatever, right? But this guy, he's going to face Anthony Joshua. Look out for Otto Wallin. He's probably going to throw him down. He's going to wrestle him in a boxing ring. All right. The second fight on the undercard. We got Rydell Booker. He is a formerly undefeated heavyweight, and he is at 25-1-0. I believe he only lost once, and he lost once before his long absence from boxing. Speaking of his absence from boxing, so Showtime, very candidly, as he's making his walk into the ring, decided that they should announce that he had went to jail for having 35 pounds of cocaine in his trunk. 35 pounds of coca. Man. But hey, I guess they did that just for the hype. Maybe he was supplying some of that cocaine to Tyson Fury. I kid, but And then he was facing Jermaine Franklin, undefeated in 17 bouts. He's looking for title shots. That means he wants to face Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder, Anthony Joshua. He wants all of them. And he's, doing very well so far as an undefeated heavyweight. It seems like there's actually a couple in the heavyweight division for some reason. It's rather weird, but I guess it's the time that we live in. But the fight itself was very interesting. So Rydell Booker, I believe he is 45 years old, and Jermaine Franklin, is in his 20s. They were pretty neck and neck constantly throughout the fight. Franklin, he has very much so of a swarmer type of, like a swarmer brawler type of style. He was going in with very, very strong attacks, but seemingly very sloppy form. And Booker, he had a very methodical style. He was not a very aggressive fighter. He was very much so focusing on counter punches. So, Franklin would come in with a very strong swarming technique, and Booker, by some means, managed to dodge ridiculous moves and throw good counter, like uppercuts, counter hooks. This lasted the full 10 rounds. This was 10 rounds for each and every fight on this event. They were all scheduled for 10 rounds, and for 10 rounds straight, he literally outboxed him, I think. Now, the only problem with Booker's style was that he did not throw a lot of punches, but his hit percentage was higher. Franklin's hit percentage was much lower, but he threw more shots. So I believe it was the fact that Franklin was more active that he won that bout, but I don't really agree with it, especially considering Booker hit him so hard, his mouthpiece fell out twice in the fight. It was pretty damn funny. And even then, there were just a couple of weird... The whole undercard was actually really weird, I have to say. There were a lot of weird things going on. I think even the ref, somewhere around in the fourth round... there was a guy, he spilled water on the canvas, and the ref was just like, hey, go clean up that water. That doesn't really happen very often, but, luckily there was no damage, Water damage is a big deal. I guess. What can you say? But, for the main event, this is it. So, Clarissa Shields versus Christina Hammer for the middleweight undisputed championship of the world. That's the WBA, WBC, WBO, and IBF middleweight championships. This is the first ever to happen at middleweight, and this is the second undisputed champion that would be crowned that night. I was shocked. I was shocked about what I saw on that night. That was a ridiculous fight. One reason was because Personally, I expected Christina Hammer to win, just because I thought she was very headstrong and she was going to use spacing in a really good way. You know, set up good distances and then focus on counter punching, and you know, as a taller fighter, that just makes sense for that type of strategy. But Clarissa Shields was having none of that. I mean, she had head movement that was akin to like Mike Tyson head movement. It was insane. She absolutely destroyed Christina Hammer. And she I mean, for the first round, it looked like Christina Hammer had a good foothold. You know, she was being very assertive with the jab. She was using distance really good, and she was not letting, Shields' power punches get close to her. She was establishing good distance, and she was getting a good pace of the fight. And Shields just snapped right into gear. It was really entertaining to see, and I've never really seen her fights before, but girl is talented. I mean, I believe she's had 70 fights as an amateur and only lost once, and as a professional, up until the fight, was 8-0 with 2 knockouts. Very strong, methodical style. For 9 rounds straight, it was just a good fight. She was dodging all of the hooks that Christina Hammer was throwing. She started to have a little bit of desperation too, because Christina Hammer, she kept throwing these very boomeranging hooks and going into the clinch. And this would happen like up to 6 or 7 times in a fight. That shows distress, in my opinion. If you're going for the clinch that much, I think that means that you're gassing out really freaking quick. And Clarissa Shields, she just kept coming back. It was actually funny because she was talking in her corner with, her cornermen and her cutmen, and she's sitting there and she's like gassed up. She's like, I'm ready to go. I am ready to go. And it was just it was really funny. But I've never really seen any female fighter have such passion in the ring like that. It was really something that I think if you're a boxing fan, or even if you're not a boxing fan and you want to see the development of women's fighting, this was a big event. It was very interesting too, because I thought Christina Hammer was going to get knocked out in the 8th round. This was towards the 1-minute mark. Shields was just getting a very strong foothold of Christina's timing and all of that, and she was going in and she was doing the good shots to the body. She was going for the head and then the body, and she was going nuts. And of course, Christina was saved by the bell. Now, granted, she was not knocked down, but had that gone on any longer, she would have been knocked out. That would have been really awesome. Personally, as a fan of the heavyweight division, I do enjoy seeing good, clean knockouts, and I think that would have been picturesque for this type of fight. I've even seen some people, they have expressed some disdain for women's fights being 2 minutes long, and I can agree with that. Honestly, I think in this point here and now, if we're gonna talk about women's boxing being on the same level as men's boxing, I can understand shortening the rounds to 10 rounds, but for the rounds themselves, they should be 3 minutes instead of 2 minutes. Just because I think that Christina may have had a better chance, and even then, if she had a better chance, we could have seen a knockout tonight. But I guess protectionism is kind of at a higher priority than knockouts in the women's division. So all may be fair and just. It may not be. It's all depending on you guys, what your opinion is, really. But altogether, it was a great fight. She even called out Cecilia Brockhaus. I believe that's how you pronounce her name. Very foreign name, so I don't really know how to pronounce it. But the First Lady, the first undisputed champion in the women's division at welterweight, she called her out, and that may be a fight. We may see Cecilia go up against Clarissa, 2 undisputed champions, and honestly, I think Clarissa Shields would have a very good, strong chance at beating Cecilia, just because what we saw that night was really incredible. She's working on her movement. She's working on a methodical style. Very much so an evolution from her early fights when she was just going in and kind of going in with a swarming type of, brawler type of fighting style. Now it just seems like she's really polished up and she's gotten a good, strong foothold. And I mean, clearly strong enough foothold to take the whole middleweight division by storm under 10 fights. So that tells you something. So yeah, friends, this fight actually, I want to say that this fight right here is almost on par with Wilder versus Fury. That was a great fight. The only thing that spoiled Wilder versus Fury is obviously the political side of things, but that's cannot be helped. So, but let us know what you guys thought of this podcast. Those are just my points for Shields versus Hammer for the undisputed middleweight championship in the women's division. I thought it was an excellent fight. Thought the undercard was quite amusing. Let us know if you guys want to see some more boxing commentary. I plan on doing coverage of Wilder versus Brazil, fight that no one wanted to happen, especially if you follow the heavyweight division. We wanted Wilder versus Fury number 2, and that didn't happen. So, and of course, we still want Deontay Wilder versus Anthony Joshua for the undisputed heavyweight championship of the world, but it seems like that might not happen either. There's a couple of interesting things going on in boxing at the moment. Obviously, the heavyweight division has returned to its glamour days, and there's some interesting things also going on elsewhere. There's talks about Pacquiao versus Mayweather 2 potentially happening. In my opinion, may not happen just because boxing politics, it's real. And of course, there's also some very interesting fights going on with Terence Crawford. If you haven't followed Terence Crawford, he's probably one of the best boxers that have hit the 21st century ever. He's just a damn legend. He's just a damn legend. So, if you guys like, please subscribe, like, share with your friends, or leave a comment down below. We'd love to hear from you guys. This has been Nasty Fish number 4, friends, and we will see you again next time. Peace out, friends. I don't know how to dance.